Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week's discussion is going to be the first of a three-part series on the history of magic in Shadowrun. I will be focusing this week primarily on the Awakening and the early years following it. I will also touch briefly on discussion about the cycle of magic, but this is going to be a simple, straightforward week. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about magic in the shadows. December 24th, 2011. This is the date. The key date in Shadowrun. The date everything truly changes. Because this is the date of the Awakening. This is held to be the day, the single day that marks when magic returned full force into the world. There were, of course, things leading up to this. Warning signs that magic was coming back to those who knew what to look for. Unexplained genetic expression began in March of that year. Elves and dwarves started being born. On October 31st, in Salem, there was a ghost experience. Real ghosts, not what we think of as ghosts today, of things that go bump and camera tricks and that sort of thing. But real spectral entities walking down the middle of Salem Township. And then came December 24th, 2011. And this date is considered significant because it had two major things occur on it. First is the return and the awakening of the great dragon Ryumo, who flew along beside the bullet train in front of Mount Fuji in Japan. The other event that is considered, and this is why they consider this the Awakening, is the escape by Daniel Howling Coyote from the Abilene Detention Center. Because eyewitness accounts reported that he was chanting and glowing, though scientists have argued that that was a trick of the light, and the bullets being fired by the guards at him and the other Native Americans that were in the process of breaking out were not hitting. And a major storm was just coming up. Blew open the gates, and once they got out of the gates, just fled. And the guards couldn't go after them because of the storm. Now, years later, it would be understood that this was all magical effects. At the time, no one knew what was going on. And you just had the sequence where dragons were waking up. In 2013, Dunkelzahn makes his appearance and begins giving his first interviews, explaining what's going on. But what you saw in 2011 up until December 24th was the rise of the mana levels, the rise of the magic levels as the world was coming out of the Fifth Age. And this was the start of the Sixth World, the Sixth Age. We've come from a world of technology, we've moved into a world of magic. Eventually, levels will rise, reach a peak, fall down, and then it will go back into another world of technology. But this period was extremely significant. This shaped how the world saw magic. And a number of things were going on. But first off, let's stop and think. You have this point where magic on this one day tips over to where things work. And you've got all these people who practice various mystical traditions today in the real world. And suddenly they attempt to summon a spirit, and it actually shows up. They attempt to lay a curse on somebody, or something like that, and it starts having immediate, visible effects. And they're going to be frightened at first, and then they're going to try and figure out what the heck's going on, and then stuff starts getting developed. And it's from the guidance of Dunkelzahn, from experimentation, that the initial stages of the awakening quickly led to a solidification into two camps of magic. You had those who relied on esoteric formula, precise hand movements, extremely just precise everything. Those would become the Hermetics. Then you have the ones who were more ecstatic magicians, and they typically claimed a totem, and that would be the shamans. And that was the initial formation of magic. But that didn't happen really for a number of years. What did happen, though, was the Great Ghost Dance in 2014. This is when Daniel Howling Coyote showed the might of the Native American nations by causing a bunch of volcanoes to blow up at once. And efforts by the U.S. military at the time to try and get out to engage the Native Americans were always inexplicably met with snowstorms or thunderstorms so bad that they couldn't move their vehicles out or get their people out safely to wherever they were going. And this whole thing culminated in the Great Ghost Dance. And that was at the point where people truly realized that something was going on. That something was changing. And you have, Dunkelzahn explaining all this to people. And, everything's just different. People are trying to wrap their minds around it. You have the events like the Papal New Year's Day Mass in 2012. So, January 1st, 2012, where the Pope declared all unexplained genetic expression children and anyone doing anything seemingly magical as abominations. And then you had the resulting schism in the Catholic Church, where the French Catholic Church went, no Pope, that's wrong. And then the Pope mysteriously dies in his sleep. But that's really what we're dealing with. The early days of Magic were very much, first off, just figuring out what the heck was going on. And then learning what to do and how to deal with it. And that is what most of the period between 2012 and 2050 pretty much is for Magic. By 2050, when the setting officially begins, the year the first book covers and starts in, they've pretty much figured out and gotten a basic handle on how Magic works, and it's fairly predictable. But that will be discussed in my next video. At this point, I just want to pause and go that, this is sort of what separates Shadowrun from other settings. That they actually, in their history, paint the emergence of magic as something chaotic. That it is a defining thing for the setting. Now, next week, I will be discussing the 2050s and early 2060s up until the development of universal magic theory. So, if you liked this video, please click like and subscribe down below. If you want to get notifications of this channel, please click the little bell icon down below. And until next week, I just want you all to remember, have fun and keep gaming.